we got in our lights. So these are the lights that are going to be going in the fog lights. I tried to pick ones that weren't hella Jeep bro. I think I did an okay job. But we're going to be tinting them today with this stuff, and I'm going to show you why. Not just because it's going to look totally sick, but because the lenses that you guys might have seen me making in the previous episode are not as clear as you might think. So this one's actually pretty good, but the process that these have to be made with involves curing like a UV resin. Well, when you do that, you make it yellow. So if you start to look at it, it's very difficult because the GoPro is going to make the white balance perfect. But in certain lights, you can start to see just how yellow they get, and they'll only get more yellow with time as they get sun exposure. So I'm going to go ahead and tint them all yellow because I'm running yellow lights on the car anyway, so might as well keep the theme. And I think it will look dope. So this all turned out honestly really well. This Krylon stained glass stuff worked about as well as it apparently should have from what I read online, so that's awesome. I am really surprised with how clear this turned out right away. There's no hazing. And the reason why these are a little bit more orange than they normally would be is just because they're sitting on some cardboard. So moving on to the next step in our fog light and bumper modification and light modification process, I think I'm going to go ahead and try to get our Tormach CNC, which is not the best machine, but for cutting acrylic it should work. I'm going to try to go get it set up for cutting a sheet of acrylic. The only thing I don't know about is that I'm pretty sure we don't actually have a small enough bit or tool to do the holes for the M3 screws. So I might just have to drill those later, which isn't a big deal. But yeah, let's go get the machine set up. So this is our Tormach 1100. As you can see, we were doing some leveling stuff, but we don't need it to be that level for acrylic. So I've got a big sheet of 2.5mm thick acrylic over there. I've got the profile of the face. So I think we're just gonna get right into it, and I'll show you guys the cam process that I'm probably gonna totally mess up, and I'll show you all of the flaws. And I have absolutely no idea how to mount acrylic to something while cutting it. I'm probably just gonna mount it to a piece of wood. I've heard that you should probably use like double stick tape or 3M adhesive if you want to get a really, really clean cut, but we can make a printed bezel for it, so not too worried, but let's go ahead and do this. Alright guys, so I've got the cam pretty set up here, I think. It's always wrong anyways, and we'll probably mess up something, but basically I'm just doing tab machining on this part. The lens is actually 2.5mm thick, but in this case I've made it 5 just to account for all the deviation of just being taped to a piece of wood. It doesn't matter, I'm cutting through it anyways. So in the simulation here you can see we're boring out our 4 holes first, just to make sure that everything stays kind of happy and aligned. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a bunch of tabs along the edge that will keep the acrylic held in place, and then I can just cut them out later because the final lens will only be 2.5mm thick, so that's no problem to just cut and sand. So I have a feeling I'm probably going to have messed up the origin. I almost always do. I'm terrible with keeping track of it, but the goal for me tonight is not to run the tool into the vise. So if we don't do that, I'll call that a success. So I'm gonna roll the time lapse of trying to machine it, and I'll get back to you at the end. Holy moly, guys, I think we did it. I believe that is a lens. It's got the little tabs and everything. Let's get this out of the vise and see if it fits. And that is a lens. Cut is actually pretty damn good. I gotta clean it up a little bit, but as far as that goes, that's pretty freaking awesome. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. I screwed in the plate and it fits absolutely dead nuts on. It looks great. It's really easy to scratch because it's plexiglass, but you know, who cares? They're easy enough and cheap enough to make that it's no big deal. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the second one here. And the way, I didn't really go over this because I wasn't sure if it was gonna really work that well, but the way that this acrylic was attached is just by wrapping this all in packing tape. If you wrap over the edges of the wood, it was just enough to hold it in place. It got a little dicey when it did the bores because it would go down really slow and then quickly do the bore. And when it quickly did that bore, you could see the whole thing kind of move, but the outer edge I set so slow that you just kind of wait a while and eventually it's done. So, and it doesn't move it around too much. So let's go ahead and make this second one and be done with these. I'm absolutely ecstatic, to say the least. Okay, so I got both of them done. They look great. The paint on the lens in there kind of went to shit a little bit. I'm not sure why, but you can't really tell from any reasonable distance away. And once these get some dirt on them, I don't think it'll matter at all. It's like freezing rain outside and really scary, so I'm gonna get going, but got to finish these today, so that's awesome. And we'll see how they look in the bumper soon enough. All right, we're back at the shop, and it's kind of an exciting day because I have all of, or most of the parts that we need to plumb up the turbo and go ahead and mount it, and maybe even start the car. I really want to hear the car, even if it means filling up the turbo with 6 ounces of oil and running it for 30 seconds. I just really want to hear the car run, and I should really run it because it hasn't run in a long time. So we're gonna go ahead and get this guy in the car, and then it's gonna be up to turbo placement to decide how this piping is gonna end up. And then I should be able to just take the exhaust hangers that I got, take the T3 flange I got, and some pipe, and make it all happen. I'm just gonna roll a time lapse, and we'll see what happens. Alright, so next we're gonna go ahead and make this basically a V-band flange for my turbo. This is the T3 flange for the turbo for the inlet on the exhaust housing. This is a T3, or sorry, this is a 3-inch V-band, so I'm just gonna go ahead and weld it like this, and then have some metal plate to fill in the edges, and then grind it down so it's a nice smooth inlet for all the exhaust gas. This should be better. This should be better than trying to weld the really thin pipe that I have to that 1/2-inch thick piece of steel. I think that would probably end up being a total nightmare. And this is more compact anyways, so. The bolt heads don't have to stick out here. These are threaded, which is sweet, so that way I can get away with this. So I was able to weld up this T3 to 3-inch V-band flange. It actually welded quite nice. I was able to get the edges, and it's all sealed up, and it took the heat well and didn't warp. So now that I've got that ready to accept some welding to exhaust pipe, I'm going to go ahead and place it back here. And I'm really not sure where to place it, so I think I'm just going to kind of put the bumper on and test fit some places. I forgot to bring my nutsert tool, unfortunately, so I can't install the exhaust hangers I have without welding the tabs to the car, which I wouldn't really mind doing that, but not sure I really want to right now. So we'll see. Hopefully I can find a good home for this turbo, and hopefully I don't have to rearrange it because that would suck. But once the turbo is, or once I know where I want to have it, I'm probably just going to support it on a jack stand and then slowly make my way from the end of the exhaust as I have it right now up to the turbo or down or whatever has to happen. My biggest concern is that the exhaust is quite low. You can see it's actually sitting at like the bottom of the brake dust shield, and the suspension isn't even really compressed. So that's a little bit concerning, but it's hanging off of the factory exhaust hanger, so I think it'll be okay. Let's get to it.
With the curse inside a labyrinth, escaping here's not on my mind. Our memory's gone, I wish you hadn't followed the ghost you fell behind. This maze will kill you in your dreams. Come with me.
Alright, it's been a couple hours and about 3 trips to different stores to get the supplies, but the exhaust is basically done to the turbo at least. I don't think I'm gonna have time today to make the pipe that actually exits the bumper because I need to order in some tighter bends, but that's basically that. So I'm gonna go ahead and install the exhaust. I got some new stainless hardware for it. Then we're gonna put on the turbo. Actually, we're not gonna put on the turbo. We're gonna find a battery, start the car, let all the shit get out of the exhaust, at least for 30 seconds, and then put the turbo on, and then properly listen to it. Very excited. There's no coolant in the engine, so I can't like let it warm up. I can't let it sit there idling, but I am excited to hear what it sounds like. And I also, that's a journal bearing turbo, so if there's no oil in between the shaft and the outside of the shaft, it will score the bearing. Not like it's an expensive turbo. It was like 150 bucks, but I definitely want to try to keep some oil in it when we do this. Maybe block off the end with a piece of tape and fill it with oil, just so that way it doesn't score the bearing. But let's get to putting the exhaust on and then try it out. Also, the cord that goes to this light dangled down in front of that heater, caught on fire, shorted out, and kind of made the whole shop go crazy. So thankfully it didn't start an electrical fire. I looked over right as it burst into flames, but now I don't have a light and my LED one is dead. So might be a little bit dark, sorry.
This maze will kill you in your dreams. Come with me. The walls will hold me in a vicious trap. This maze will kill you in your dreams. Come with me. The walls will hold me in a vicious trap.
All right, well, I'm guessing the battery is probably going to be dead after sitting for so long. It might not be because it's a brand new battery. I guess I'll try to start it. I'll try to start it with the with no turbo on, and we'll see how ear-piercingly loud it probably is. I also don't know if the gas is any good, but I'm actually shaking because I'm so excited to hear this thing again. It's been a long time. Let's give it a go. It sounds really crazy. It sounds like it's gonna sound really raspy and really high pitch when I actually rev it up, but let's put the turbo on and have some fun. I jumped the gun a little bit and I already got here and played with some stuff, and I want to show you guys. By the way, I didn't outro the last night because it was so loud that I wanted to leave right away because there's houses all around here and I didn't want to get involved in a noise complaint. So, but I went ahead and put one of the wheels on with the turbo fan just for kicks, and check out this alignment. This is so much better than it used to be. If any of you have E30s or 318 Ti's or Z3s, then you probably know that when you lower one of these, and this is getting pretty low, I'm going to lower it a little bit further, but when you lower these, you can physically see the camber in tow just standing, you know, 6 feet away from it. It's that bad. And this, now that it's not aligned with the body line that slopes inwards, is so much better than it used to be. It's kind of difficult because of how fisheye this lens is, but you can really tell, especially with the fan on there, you can really tell just how vertical the tire is. Before I was only getting about 2/3 of the contact patch of the tire. It would pretty much end like right here. And now I think I'm gonna be able to use, actually you can see that there's still the red marking on the tire from when it was new. But now I think I'm gonna actually use the whole contact patch, hopefully get a little bit more out of these $1,600 tires. So absolutely stoked on that. Stoked on how it looks too. This is great. Look at all of the meat. So that was kind of goal one for tonight. My other goals are I brought over my riv nut gun, or my riv nut tool, and we're gonna go ahead and try to fix a certain problem that some of you guys may have noticed, which is that this turbo isn't currently supported by anything other than that little rubber hanger and this V-band, which is somehow keeping it from rotating. I'm not sure how. But basically I'm just gonna get the exhaust hangers that I bought. I picked up some steel ones off eBay, which I actually think were a pretty good deal. They're by a brand, I guess, called Southern Swingers, which I think is hilarious, but this is really simple. You can just use like an M10 bolt through here with a nutsert in the chassis, and then this will get welded probably to the T3 flange V-band situation in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and start making that, and then hopefully we can have a supported turbo. And then once that's done, I think I'm gonna go ahead and make the, and mount the wastegate and weld it up. There's a really nice, sorry this is going on for a bit, but this bend is kind of perfect to put a V-band, or a wastegate right here, because the flow will be able to kind of split off into a Y when it's open, or rather will want to go into the wastegate. There's a bunch of those eBay flanges that are already made, they're cast. Some are just shitty welds, and it's a 90-degree angle into the wastegate, which is like the worst situation you could have. So I think going off of that Y will be really good. And then the plan is to have the wastegate and the exhaust exit out of the same hole on the bumper. We'll see if we can make that happen, but let's get to work. So I was able to get the wastegate flange or V-band tacked up, and I got that hanger on, so that's all looking good. I think that's going to be it for tonight. I also wanted to check to make sure if it was too low, so I jacked up this tire, and that's actually the reason why I brought that here, not just to check out how it looks, but the tire seems to be lower than the exhaust just by maybe an inch or so I'm alright with that. This car, the suspension is so stiff that I'm not really worried about it compressing and then just bottoming out. I should only be on really nice surfaces, because I hate driving it on anything that's rougher than a pebble. So I guess it'll be okay. So with that, I think I'm probably going to end off at least tonight of this video. We'll see what comes next. And one more thing before I close up shop for the night. I finally cut the mounting bosses off of those fog lights that I made, and I think they look pretty much exactly how I want it to look. They look just like the I-90 style ones, so pretty stoked on that. The angle of the beam also looks to be correct. It's tilted a little bit inwards, which should point them pretty much straight and then right at the ground, right about here. But yeah, this looks really aggressive. I think I'm gonna take these stickers off. I don't really like how they look, so should clean up the look a bit, but super happy.